Ooh, I never ever get tired of hearing that music. Oh my goodness. Welcome again to Great Convos, the podcast. I am your host today, the dad guy. And that gentleman over here
Hello,
is,
I am the Papa guy. We are showing our most important titles today, Dad or Papa. And why is that, Roger? What's the subject today?
well, today we are talking about the lessons we've learned and the inspiration from our daughters. And before I even get started with all of that, let me remind you that whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great convos. Now, Alexandre, we're doing this, but we're not actually doing this live, are we?
No, not
I mean,
exactly.
I'm confused.
Well, we turned the clocks forward 1 hour yesterday, but we made a
Mhm.
mistake and we turned it forward 1 day. So, and as we speak right now, it is for us Sunday afternoon. For you, it's Monday afternoon.
Monday.
Okay, I'm confused already.
I'm so
But
confused already, too.
don't worry about it. You can still watch. You can still leave comments. It's just that we won't be able to read them right now because we are in the past.
For the
Roger,
future,
I am.
future, past, I don't know.
You you'll understand. By the time this airs tomorrow, you'll understand, Roger. And
Exactly.
if we're doing that, Roger, it's because I'm on the road, or I will be on the road tomorrow, Monday, or as you're watching this, I'll be on the road somewhere between Sudbury, where I live, and Ottawa, where my parents live, because I'm taking the kids for March break. I'm taking them to their grandparents' place, so we're gonna have
Oh,
fun.
very,
But I'm on the road
very
on
nice.
Monday.
Very nice, very nice. And of course, that leads into what we are here to talk about, and that is the inspiration of our children. Now, between both Alexandre and I, we've got five daughters. Uh, not between
Not
us,
the
of
same. It's
course.
not one family.
You
No.
know, not us, but five daughters. I have two beautiful daughters, aged 28 and 18. And you, my friend?
Yeah, that's a big age difference. 10 years. My
Mhm.
oldest daughters are both 10 years old. I had. My spouse would say, "No, you didn't." We had twins in 2012, so they are just over 10 years old now. And my youngest is 2.5 years old. So we also have a large
So
gap between the first
you have a large gap, yeah.
two and the third one.
Right. Now, maybe there are people who are asking, well, why did you wait so long? Why did we wait so long? Well, I'll start, and I'll say for me, we had our oldest very young, and there were complications at the time when we had her, and they had given her a minute chance to survive. And I think as young parents, we were scared whether or not we would have the same situation happen again. And it caused us to have a bit of a fear in terms of having more children. So it took us a while. And then finally, our daughter said to us one day, hey, can I have a sibling?
Oh,
and, and that's how it all happened. What about
so it's your
yourself?
so it's your first daughter who decided or who encouraged
Pretty
you.
much. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
for us, well, because they were twins, it was quite a whirlwind at the first for the first wow, for the first years, for the first 10,
Mhm,
8 years actually. And I
mhm.
remember, after we had the twins, and they were both in diapers, and it was really difficult and not sleeping. Friends were asking, "So when's the next one?" They were they were asking jokingly and with a lot of love, but we were like, we don't even have time to think about a third one. So
Mm-hmm.
we were thinking, well, let's talk about it again when they are both in school, and
Right.
because by that time it'll be much easier. And you know what happens when kids grow up? It doesn't necessarily become easier. that's
No,
what
it does
that's
not.
what we learned. So we just set it aside. We set it aside until well, we we sort of decided to have a third child. We had a conversation, my spouse and I, and it wound up that we were ready for a new adventure. And what an
Mm,
it is, especially
what an adventure.
we are 8 years older as well, and we weren't very young when we had our first, so it's
Mm,
hard to unpack. And it's quite a challenge to have these age differences, because the kids who are older and the kid who is younger, they don't want to do the same things. Or I should say, and let me know if for you it's the same thing. The smallest one,
no, it's
ooh,
funny that if for
what the oldest
me
ones are
it
doing.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that way with us. I mean, of course, at first there is the nuance of having a new child, and of course, my oldest was happy about that. But over time, they actually remained close. And to this day, I mean, they are so close. And oftentimes you would say, hey, look, if you have such a gap between the two of you, you might not get along or have things in common, but they are really close. I'd have to disagree with that from my perspective. Ours are very close.
Yeah, well, maybe they can give some tips to ours, because they are they don't they don't mix well. And it might be partly due to the fact that the oldest two are twins, so they already have their own bond together.
Hmm. And I was just going to say that it's probably because of that. That's the reason. So the two of them know exactly how and what to do. And then the other one is pretty much an outcast trying to find her way in
Yeah, trying to find
oftentimes.
that's right. So, for example, with our first daughters, um, there wasn't much, the dessert after dinner. It
Hmm.
used to be just, if there was dessert, it was um, fruit. That
Oh,
now our daughters wouldn't wouldn't think that fruit is dessert, but they were happy with that. They were content. When they got older, then okay, maybe you can have cake or cookies once in a while,
uh-huh.
but then they got used to it being every evening. So the youngest one, she's 2 years old, and already she's saying the oldest daughter's, oh, wait a minute, why do I have cantaloupe when you're having cake? So it
You know
it
what's
is
funny?
different.
It's crazy that you say that, Alexandre. Is that when you look back at how maybe you raised the first two in your case, and with us the first one, and now how you raised the second one. Was there a difference in for you? I mean, for me, I think that as parents, as you get older, and they often say that even I look at my parents and my siblings, and my youngest brother is 8 years younger than me. And I remember the way we were raised was a lot stricter. There were more rules, more regulations, and things like that. And then they kind of loosen it off a bit when it comes to the last one. And
Mhm.
even I have seen that we have done the same thing a little bit to a degree with our youngest one, kind of let the reins go a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen it with myself as well. My older sister and only other sibling is 3 years older than me, and
Mhm.
I remember she would complain when the rules weren't the same, or when they were the same, but it's not fair because if whatever the bedtime was, it changed
Mhm.
at the same time for her and for me. But she's like, I'm older, I should be allowed to stay up longer. But
Right.
that's how it is. And with all my friends who have had multiple children, especially three,
Mhm.
it's like at the third child, it's like, all right, you do what you want. It's a free for all for the youngest child, because
Oh,
that-
most definitely.
it's normal. And I think even way older generations or past generations, I suspect, would have done the same thing, even when they had 10 kids or more. It's like you
Mhm.
don't have time to watch them all and have different rules for every child. So you just let them gallivant around and
Right.
see what happens.
And I think I would love to hear from our audience as well. And thank you again for being here with us today. Tell us your stories. Put it in the chat. Let us know what it was for you, maybe as a child. And of course, if you have children or know of anyone that does, what is it like with them? I mean, we're talking about our daughters here. And of course, last week we celebrated International Women's Day. And we celebrated the advancement of what women have been able to do across the course of history. And of course, we know that there's still much more to be done, but we still must celebrate the achievements and the successes that they've had. And of course, with us having young daughters, I think it brings it to light how important it is to raise them and to let them understand their true value and their worth within this world. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, and I would say that having daughters, I can't compare with having sons, but I can imagine that. Well, Roger, would you say we are more protective of daughters than we would be of sons? And let us know in the chat if you have both and you're a father, how it happens, or if you're a mother too.
Yes, of
Do you
course.
see them differently? Are you more protective of one than the other? Because
Oh,
one
yeah.
some are boys and some are girls. I don't know, but
Now, no,
there is some.
go
It
on,
is
please. Go on.
yeah, it is special because when I think as soon as I knew we were having girls, so before their birth, it's like I got this feeling of what I was. I grew up with women. I had my older sister and my mother, very feminist, part of the feminist movement. So I
Mhm,
already had that feminist side of me, but probably even
mhm,
more when I got my daughters and wanting to, I guess it's part protecting them, but also letting them
mhm,
take their full their full place in the world and in the house. So it's
mhm.
yeah, it is special, Roger.
Yeah, and with that, touching on that, I would say yes. When I found out that we were having a daughter, I think there's a part of guys, and maybe not everyone, but for me, I would say that there was a part of me that was hoping to have a son, and just the idea of having a son was so important. But when I knew I was having a daughter, it's that switch that, okay, now I have to be the protector. And just like you said, there's a difference in how you approach it. And of course, there was a part of me, and I'll leave this story out to you, that yes, although I had a daughter, and yes, I understood that there was still a part of me that still dressed her up in some of the boys' clothes and stuff like that. So, and I remember her mom would always say, "You do know she's a girl, right? She's a girl. Like, you can't dress her like that." But there's that part of guys that always want that. But I'll tell you one thing with me. The one thing I always said was I wanted them to look like me. Now, granted, I mean, I think their mom looks very beautiful, but I had that feeling that I wanted them to I was so proud to be a father. And my oldest one is like my twin. My second one is a mixture of both of us, but I would say definitely my first one, they say, is like my twin. And I am so proud to be a father, and obviously to be a father of two beautiful, strong, intelligent women, young ladies. And it's a fun feeling to be able to say that. And again, we'd love to hear from those who are here today and their feelings towards that. Is there, if you're a father right now and you have daughters and maybe you wanted to have a son, well, please let us know if it ever happened, that feeling. What about you, Alexandre?
Yeah, you're right about the sort of wish for a boy, but I do
Hmm.
remember when we learned they were girls. I mean, I wasn't. It's not like I was upset or disappointed.
No,
On the
no,
contrary, it's like, wow, this is going to be really special. Um,
yeah,
and
we're blessed,
I
right? We're
did,
blessed.
of course, yeah.
Yes,
And
we're
even
blessed.
and for the third one, we also thought, well, maybe this time it'll balance out. We'll have a boy, but we found out it was a girl, and my daughters were super happy to have a sister. My spouse was very happy to have another daughter, and she looked at me and said, "Are you okay with this?" And I was like hiding my tears of joy. I mean, this is so cool. I've had two, and I
Mhm.
didn't expect to be like so happy of having another girl, because I was secretly hoping for a boy, but when I found out really it's another girl, I
Mhm.
mean, this is so cool, so special, because it's, man, words cannot explain the joy of having these little human beings, whether they
Mhm.
be girls or boys, right? So, but
Mhm.
I did try. I did like you. I didn't dress them up as boys. Although I guess I did, because they're
I did my
their
first
older
one. My
cousin
first one.
their older cousin is a boy, so we got a lot of their clothes. So
Mhm.
they dress up with those clothes, but um, I also tried to, play sports with them, even though I'm not really a sporty guy. Play with trucks and do things that are traditionally boy things, but
Mhm.
eventually
Mhm.
they still preferred unicorns and pink and princess stuff. And
Mhm.
so now our house is full of pink and glitter, and it's the same thing for our third daughter as well. So she's very uh, girly, if you will. So it's a girl house.
Yes, and with my youngest daughter, the funny thing is that her and I, and again, we have to be conscious of the way the world is, and it's okay for them to want to do those things. If they want to go out and drive trucks or do those things that normally traditionally would have been called them a male job or a male sport or anything like that, we encourage them to do whatever it is that they want to do. But my youngest one loved growing up on the cartoons that I loved. So she
Mhm.
wouldn't watch the more of the girly ones. She would be watching Transformers and Thundercats and Voltron and all these shows that I grew up on. And even to this day, we will still watch like the Transformer movies, and those are the things that she loves. And I think that's where the bond is when it comes to her and I, along with a lot of other things, because our characteristics are the same. Whereas my oldest one is more like her mom in a lot of ways, but we still have our bond with other things that we love. And for her and I, it was always music. I grew up
Mhm.
on music. I watched my dad. My dad loved to play music a lot, and that's where her and I had that share of joy between music. And there's so many other things. I watch both of them now. The one is in physiotherapy and she's an RMT, and then there's the other one who wants to be a lawyer. My youngest one wants to be a lawyer. So being a proud parent and watching them grow, I mean, we often say as parents, we want our kids to be better than us, right? And
Right.
and I think that's what it is for me, looking at my two daughters and seeing how much they've accomplished in their lives. You can't take that away. It's a wonderful feeling as a parent.
Yeah. And Roger, you say we want our kids to be better than us. Would you say that we become better ourselves because of our children?
Most
They
definitely. Mine
they are an
inspire me
inspiration.
so much. Oh my gosh, they are so inspirational to me. Every day I look at them and I see something new that I can look in within myself as a parent. We learn to be better parents through what we go through, the experiences we go through them. And even as a speaker, they have influenced a lot of the material that I have used because I watched them and I watched their experiences. And being a parent, some of that transitions to when I go out there and I speak. In fact, one of my speeches was about my daughter's experience, obviously, when she was born, my oldest one. And I talked about how it was for us as very young parents to deal with that situation. But they bring so much inspiration every day because their lives constantly are changing and helps us as parents to change ourselves to become better.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see them develop. And
Mhm.
when they are learning, we are learning as well. One of my first keynotes, actually, my first keynote was about my twins and the first year of
Mhm.
having them, and the lessons of leadership that I learned by having them. Something as simple as troubleshooting. when you're trying to figure out a solution to your problem, there are
Mhm.
many steps that you need to do to find out the problem or the solution. And
Right.
when I'm presenting this keynote, I present it in a humorous way about giving the bath to the children, and they don't like it, but I find out why. When I can fix that, I find out, oh, that was easier than expected. I just needed to think about it a little bit and do some
Right.
research.
Right. And that's the beauty of being a parent again. And I think what we want to leave our audience with regards to this, and this is what I've learned today, is that being a parent, it's a lot of responsibility, but it also is a lot of fun. And when you look back at what you have been able to see with your children, maybe if you can put in the comments or even think about it on your own, what is it that brings the joy to you? What is it that you've learned? How have you been able to cope? And I think that we, as fathers of daughters, we have become big protectors. We have understood how to do, as you said, troubleshoot. And we've also been able to be inspired by what they've been able to do as young ladies.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah. Well, one great thing is seeing the world through the eyes of a child. Now, especially my youngest one, when they're really young and everything is new, they're learning something constantly, multiple times a day.
Right.
As adults, sometimes we forget that. We forget that there's so much more to be discovered and to learn. One
Yeah.
thing that we could do, whether you're a parent or not, or even a grandparent now, uh, try to find something new every day by looking at the world through the eyes of a child.
Yes. Yes.
So, what do we
I
have
think.
for next week,
Woo!
Roger?
Well, we have another exciting episode for you next week. We have, as we've talked about many times, Alexandre and I have been on the world stage multiple times. Last year, Alexandre came back with second in the world at the World Championship Public Speaking. I, of course, was third in the world in 2021. But we are bringing back a gentleman who, in our time, in our district, did it first. And it has not been done since he had done it. And his name is Ross Mackay. And he was third in the world in, I believe it was 1995, I believe it
5 or 6?
was.
Yeah, yeah.
1995. And he was the last Canadian to be on the podium until myself in 2021. So we want to have a conversation with him and talk about his experience there at the World Championship, what differences and similarities he's seen over the years. It's going to be a great conversation to have with the three of us.
Yes, it'll be awesome. Well, Roger, this was a great conversation. As always, my friend, we could go on for the full day, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
traveling, so I can't keep talking. we we will be back
Well, you
next
have
week.
yourself a safe trip. You have a safe
Thank you.
trip.
Yes, I'll let you know if it's not safe. I'll keep in touch with you while I'm on the road.
Of course.
And
Of
next
course.
time we will be live again with Ross. So I will leave you, Roger, with the last words today.
Well, as always, we thank you for joining us today on Great Convos. And please remember that whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great convos.
See you next time.